thank everybody for joining us today. We are excited to have this opportunity to talk about Barracuda email protection and some of the great solutions we have to tackle the challenges that are phishing and business email compromise and all the threats we have before us. We're excited to have Jamie with us from Barracuda to talk through the product and some of the challenges that we face. So Jamie, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks,
And
man.
I think we've got a decent little set of participants, so we'll get started. We may have a few folks jump on here in a moment, but I will go ahead and jump in just really quickly. For anybody that doesn't know us, I think everybody on this call is a client or a friend of Burk IT. But for those of you that are a little bit new to us, obviously we've been here for a while. We're established in Kingsport, Tennessee. We've been around since 1996, providing managed services and IT support to folks all throughout the region. Very proud of a very strong engineering team here that done a fantastic job over the years supporting our clients. We've got wonderful sales and marketing resources for anybody that needs help. So share this slide for no other reason to be able to say if you need any help or any challenges or have any challenges with your IT needs, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But we're here to talk about phishing and business email compromise and how we can battle the threats that are before all of us. So the most important stat that will show up is, why does this matter? Why are we here? We are all attempting to avoid a data breach. Each and every day, that risk grows higher and higher. And as you can see from the stats that IBM provided in their 2023 report, the cost of a data breach in the U.S., that average cost right now is just under $10 million, $9.48 million. Globally, it's creeping up on $5 million per breach. That is not only a significant number, not only a scary number. For a lot of organizations, depending on industry and depending on capital, that can be a fatal number to a lot of organizations, depending on the data that's lost and the efforts that are involved in recovering that data and, frankly, recovering reputation after a breach. So defending your organization, having the right controls in place to make sure that a phish does not lead to the exploitation of a vulnerability, which does not lead to some type of ransomware or data exfiltration. That's what we're here to talk about. What do we do to prevent that type of activity? So I'd like to share just a couple of stats. I preface these stats by saying these are not misprints. This is not a typo. The rate of phishing attacks worldwide per this report from /Next grew or increased by over 1,200% from Q4 of 2022 to Q3 of last year. That is a massively large number, 1,265%, an average of 31,000 daily attacks. So you have to stop and think, what happened? What changed? Why have we seen such a massive increase in phishing attacks? You have to simply go back and look at what came to light in November of 2022. That's when we were all introduced to ChatGPT. That was really the birth of generative AI and providing a tool not only to the good guys, but to the bad guys on how well they can manipulate and represent themselves as someone else, how they can create convincing, dynamic content that can fool us all into doing bad things. Over that same period of time, we saw almost 1,000% increase in credential-focused phishing. And that demand was largely driven by ransomware groups that wanted credentials so they could exploit potential targets and use ransomware as a tool. A lot of that exploitation was in the form of business email compromise, which we'll talk about next. This has become the ultimate attack on trust. We have seen a growth of BEC, business email compromise, over the last 2 years in a way that is largely unprecedented. This has become a primary tool for infiltration and exploitation of a target, of bad guys accessing and leveraging an organization to perform harm. This is just as this little diagram demonstrates. This is someone pretending to be a company executive or a trusted resource, talking people into sending credentials, to sending funds, to execute purchases, to do all kinds of things, and then collect that money. This is a massive risk. This is one of the ways in which cybercriminals are leveraging the migration of email in general to the cloud. Very few of any of us have our email on premises any longer. We're using a hosted service, a lot of Microsoft 365, a lot of Google G Suite folks, and that makes the attempts in the form of business email compromise that much more successful because they can, in a lot of ways, try to access you from anywhere in the world and pretend to be someone they are not. And when they're doing that, this has led to a massive financial hit on all industries around the world. So you can see from NASDAQ's 2024 Global Finance Crime Report, 6.7 billion of the $10 billion reported in losses were attributed to some type of cyber-enabled scam that was linked to business email compromise. Business email compromise, resulted in almost $7 billion in losses in 2023. That is a tremendous number. It's doubled in frequency in the last year. Almost 14.5, almost 14.6 attacks per 1,000 mailboxes in October by October of last year. So just a massive uptick in business email compromise attacks. And these are the types of attacks that were not easily defendable without the right tools. We really have to look at evolving our tools and growing our stack and our layered defense to defend against these types of threats. And as you can see by this last stat on the screen, it's kind of scary. The average cost of a successful BEC attack was more than $125,000. That's a huge amount of money to any organization. And when you're seeing the rate of attack double in a calendar year, that's the risk that we all face. So we can't just fall back on the traditional tools we've had. We can't just assume that, our basic blocking and tackling will keep us safe. We have to constantly evolve. We have to constantly build layers of defense in our environments to keep us safe. And that's why we want to have Jamie here today. That's why we want to talk about what Barracuda can do to help us in this space. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and hand this over to Jamie and ask him to talk about some of the advantages of the tools that Barracuda has available are to our clients.
Great. Thanks so much for that intro, Ben. I appreciate that. And that was a great preamble. One thing that caught my attention was your focus on prevention. I mean, the cure, you don't want to have to get to that stage when we're talking about ransomware and, just general phishing approaches. I know Burk IT has a tremendous amount of technology in front of them to prevent a lot of the stuff happening right out of the gate. But as he mentioned, a layered approach is definitely more effective. And one of the layers, the first layer part of email protection, which I suspect most of you folks have from Burk IT, is a gateway solution. So a gateway solution is very much a rules-based system. It's looking at any messages that come in will flow through the gateway. And the way that this is going to handle it is there's a number of policies or different filter layers that the email is going to go through to check to see whether it's something that should be allowed to go through or quarantined or blocked or maybe something in between. It's something that can be tuned to each of the environments. So everyone can be different. It doesn't all have to be the same. The different layers can be turned on or off individually. So there's a lot of granularity with that. And again, users are only receiving emails that actually meet those preset qualifications based on those filter layers. So why is it not effective? Well, that's a bit of an overstatement here. It's effective at doing what it's designed to do, the rules-based mechanism, looking for all the different checks and balances and determining whether something should be delivered or not. But because it is rules-based, it is very binary. So it has to meet, certain criteria to be quarantined, other criteria to be blocked. And some of those more clever social engineering approaches, as Bennett also suggested, with the this insurgence of the resurgence of the chat GPTs and other AI components, it's making it very difficult for a rules-based system to adequately address those concerns. So, with that being said, things like the context of the message, the tone of the message, who's interacting with who, that type of stuff is not typically taken into account with the gateway solution. So that's going to bring us over to our impersonation protection solution. So this is a layer that sits beyond the gateway. And the way that this works is built on AI. It's AI being used by the good guys, I guess. The connectivity is very straightforward. This is something that Burk IT would handle on your behalf, but it's really just looking for global admin credentials for an M365 tenant. It's an API level connection, which just means we're talking directly to M365. And with that connection, what it's going to do is it's going to look back the last 6 months to a year and train the AI to build a history, to identify who's interacting with who, the nature of those conversations, what types of requests are people making to other individuals in the organization or outside of the organization, where people are signing in from, the typical email address they're using, that type of thing. And then with this product in place, it's going to be looking for any deviations or anomalies from that expected behavior, if you will. And then from there, we'll employ the different classifiers we've got to look for various attack types. That could be conversation hijacking, extortion, impersonation attempts, phishing, and scamming. So I'll show you a few examples here. And let's start with this. We'll start with this top one, scamming. So this is appearing to come from Norton. It's a pretty common AV solution out there. But my mind goes directly, or my eyes go directly to the key indicators indicating that the language associated within this message is typically something used for frauds and scams. So we can see a nice breakdown of the message. And what the solution has done as a result of catching this is it's preventing that user from actually being able to interact with that message directly. More on that in just a moment here. I'll give you another couple of examples. Yeah, here's a good one. This is a classic. So we've got, so this is an impersonation attempt. So we can see the emails making an unusual request to the recipient. So these people may have interacted previously, but hey, can we have a quick chat via email? I need you to. So there's a call to action here that we've highlighted. A common, another example I could probably dig up and find is, hey, can you send me your personal phone number? I just need to send you a link to complete that purchase order. It almost always results in a redirection of money, or at least that's ultimately the end goal. And then another key piece here is the from address is not something that Gherkin would typically use. So a lot of users, we all know it's a very fast-paced work environment out there, phones and tablets, people are always on the go. They may not necessarily take the time to actually see the email address that was being used here. They'll see that familiar name as that friendly display name, but the email address behind that is not something that Gherkin would typically use. So as a result, we've gone ahead and caught that and determined that it's very likely, because of those multiple factors, that it's probably a part of an impersonation attempt. And just pausing on this here for a moment, this email address, when it comes to a gateway solution, for all intents and purposes, is legitimate. I mean, unless we've gone ahead and blocked earthlink.net entirely or gmail.com or something like that, that would certainly stop a lot of this stuff from coming through. But it's you're going to have a very filled up quarantine digest at the end of the day, depending on the action taken. So unless there's a specific sender policy in the gateway to block this user or this address as a whole, which can change by the minute, it's not going to be very effective. Let's look at another couple of examples here. We'll just see what else we got here. Yeah, so Office 365. So Microsoft, again, is typically not using that email address to send. So that one does look a little strange, but a lot of folks around here are using Teams. We're using it right now. And there's going to be often a link that's going to redirect to a credential harvesting or phishing website, if you will, where people need to respond to this, because there's the threat of them not being able to access their M365 resources. So often that's going to be, again, where credentials are leaked. Let's find another example here. This one, this is one of the scarier ones in my mind. This is what we refer to as conversation hijacking. Now, the way that this situation usually unfolds is typically through lost or stolen credentials. So this would be a thread, at least in this example here. This could be, and we can all envision this. This could be a thread that these individuals are a part of. They're all trusted parties. Everyone knows what they're talking about. It's just a natural, typical conversation. But at some point, likely due to lost or stolen credentials, the nefarious actor will be able to gain access with those credentials into the M365 tenant, gain access to the user's inbox, and then start changing inbox rules to redirect messages coming in to silently, unbeknownst to the user, redirect to an external third party. So again, without the people of this thread being aware of that. So when the time is right, and usually it's when the dollars and cents start to come into it, they'll inject themselves and start to redirect where that purchase is to be ultimately sent to, or the purchase orders to be sent to. So we've noticed here, there's a few indicators, but the main one here is the domain has changed. So this is again, for all intents and purposes, a legitimate domain, and unless it's being blocked by a gateway solution, it's going to get through. We've noticed that there's an extra S on it now. So instead of third-party vendor comps with one S, as it was within the original thread here, we can see that that was modified or spoofed, if you will, by that nefarious third party that's injected themselves in this conversation in an attempt to redirect. So this can be used to find similar messages. You can also report it as a false positive, but I guess one unanswered question, and that's, I guess, due to me, is what happens to these messages when they are caught by that? Well, I'll quickly pull up the settings here. So generally speaking, we recommend to move that email to the recipient's junk folder. So again, remembering where we're at here in terms of the layered approach. The gateway solution scans everything coming in, employs its rules, and then from there, we'll deliver. With this additional layer, the impersonation protection product, we're now doing a further assessment based on those classifiers and the knowledge that we have, or the baseline established within the tenant. We now know that some of the stuff is seeming a little bit fishy here. So for all intents and purposes, those messages have been delivered to the recipient, but we're hiding them effectively by moving those to the junk folder. Another action could be to permanently delete the message from that recipient's account. It could be a little risky in case it was something legitimate and we didn't nail it. Or, and I wouldn't recommend this, but it is possible to simply leave that. But with this top approach, or any of these approaches, but that's the recommended one, the recipient of that suspicious email could receive a message or indicator letting them know that, hey, you're part of a targeted phishing attack. Why am I getting this alert? Here's the email details. And then there's the general analysis, those threat indicators that we're looking at in those few examples. The recipient will receive those as well. What should you do about it? Where is the message? Well, junk folder as by default. And then if it's not legitimate, or if it is a legitimate message and it's you need to report that, you can do so. And this would go ahead and retrain the AI to ignore similar circumstances in the future for that user. So that's what happens to this. And then Burk IT can also receive an alert notification for them drawing attention to this dashboard here for them to pay attention to other anomalies that may have taken place. We'll throw in one more example here is the extortion attempt. And you can see the nature of what we're looking at here. No one likes to see this type of stuff, but at any rate, we did catch this as well. But generally speaking, we're looking for requests for cryptocurrency or unusual threats to the recipient. So we've got that natural language analysis that we've got going on behind the scenes to identify the tone of the conversation or the nature of the discussion. So that's the spear phishing piece, and probably one of the most simplest to understand and consume parts of this product. It just kind of happens behind the scenes and is really designed for those very clever social engineering types of attacks. Beyond this piece here, we've got another very important component of impersonation protection, and that's our account takeover protection. So this is looking for three different elements here. We're looking for suspicious emails sent from an account, a suspicious sign-in, and inbox rules changing. So if we look at this alert, which Burk IT would also receive and immediately be able to action if they deem relevant, they can review this message. And we can see that we've got some emails that have been sent here. We can see who the external recipients were of those suspicious emails. We can see the subject, action needed. Often there's a call to action here. And then we can also view that message from here. We can also look at the sign-in, and we can see there's an unusual user agent IP, different location coming from China. So as a result, we've identified that as a suspicious sign-in for this user account. There were no inbox rules changed here in this particular example, but I'll show you some of those here in just a moment. So as a result, Burk IT could come in here and create an incident. And step one would be to reset that password for that compromised user account. So that's an easy first step. The next steps we'd recommend would be to disable sign-in access for this account. So basically eliminating any additional sign-ins and then killing any existing sessions to ensure that the flow has been stemmed effectively and the attack that may be underway is no longer effective. Furthermore, we can clean up this message, and that would include an internal cleanup as well as sending external notifications to the folks that received that suspicious email that was sent from that account. There's multiple steps. I won't bother going through them all, but there is some remediation actions available here. Looking at the other tabs, we've got the incidents tab. It's just a running tally of all the different incidents that have been created, which you can review. The inbox rules that have been changed, we can see all kinds of information here. We've got modified or deleted rule. Some investigation can go on here to see what the name of the rule is, the action, the conditions, any exceptions, whether or not it's enabled or in play, if you will. So great intel to have there. And that is searchable as well if anything specific needs to be searched for. And then we also have a sign-in map. So let's see if we got some data here for me to talk about. Yeah, there we go. So we've got, you can understand what this is doing. It's lighting up on the map where the M365 users for this tenant are signing in from. And we'll give you a running history down here, all coming from the United States. We've got 11 sign-ins, but here's a bit of a red flag. There was a failed sign-in. So from here, we can see all those successful sign-ins. And on page 3, there's that failure. So we can see the user that someone attempted to break into their account effectively, and where they're coming from, and how they attempted to log in. So lots of great intelligence here, and it's just another element of the impersonation protection product. And then one more piece I want to share with you here, just to kind of stitch it all together, is the reporting. It's nice to be able to see kind of the frequency of threats. We've got all the different threats located down here associated with this time frame, which is searchable or configurable, I should say. You can also search for specific messages or user accounts for that matter. And then something else I think any business owner would appreciate, or maybe not, but I'll just tell you, it's likely going to be the business owner or people with decision-making powers within an organization that are going to be the top recipients of those fraudulent emails. So this is something that can certainly show that, hey, this is actually doing something behind the scenes. Here are all the different attack types that were addressed by this product, ultimately shielded from the whomever's eyes, if you will. So that's a product in a nutshell. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. Something else that Burk IT is able to perform is what we call an email threat scan. It's very straightforward. It's similar to implementing the actual product. It's non-committal. But what that threat scan will do is it's going to run an analysis on your tenant, presuming it's M365, and it will feedback or provide a report that will show basically everything we looked at in here that would have been caught by the product if it was in place. So it's a great way to see, hey, is this product going to be a fit? I can pretty well guarantee there's going to be at least something that would be picked up by that. Just kind of reinforcing where this layered approach might be important for your organization. But that's it for me, Ben. I'll go ahead and stop my share and pass it back over to you.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jamie. That's a fantastic overview of the value and the importance of this product. And one of the things that I would add, and I'd be remiss if I didn't, is at the end of the day, everything that everyone on this call just saw in terms of an example, Burk IT has seen every one of these types of attacks in the wild. We have seen these leveraged against either us or against our clients or against those that have reached out to us for help because something bad has happened. This is a constant threat we're seeing across the board with almost everyone that we work with. Another thing that I like to add, and I think it's important to share, is I don't believe in recommending tools to clients that we don't run in-house ourselves. We run this layer of impersonation protection at Burk IT. We are an M365 shop. We have this in line with our gateway, and it has been tremendously effective. If Josh were on this call, many of you know Josh Ball, our engineering manager, he would tell you that within the first hour of us turning this on in our organization, we were capturing spear phishing attacks, which is kind of scary all by itself. I have personally, I receive at least 1, 2, 3 messages a week that is an attempted spoof of an engineer asking me to change their payroll information, or one of the owners here asking for some type of financial transfer, because we're a target like everyone else. And the threat is very real, and we need to be prepared for this. The thing you'll hear me say, if you've ever heard me speak or if you've ever talked to us about security at any level, is you have to have multiple layers of defense. We have to constantly, improve our defenses, layer our defenses. As Jamie mentioned, we have to use artificial intelligence to our advantage. It can't be something that we're simply afraid of because it's an attack vector used against us. Let's use it to the positive. Let's use it as a strong defensive tool to protect our users and make sure bad things don't happen. So we want to be looking at controls like we've seen today. We want to be talking about conditional access controls for our Microsoft environments, controlling who can authenticate from where and where that traffic can come from and all of those good things. Generative AI has made it simply too easy to get past the rules of a basic email gateway. The cyber criminals out there can sound like us, they can write like us. They know that they're not going to embed, bad links, or they're not going to, use incorrect English. They're going to do everything that they can to sound and look and act exactly like their target or the person that they're impersonating. So we need a tool that can look at, okay, this is not the typical email address. This is not the typical type of conversation or timing for this conversation. We need to use AI to our advantage. So I'm thrilled that Jamie was able to show the benefits to everyone on this call, and hopefully everyone's gotten some benefit. You'll see on the screen, I went ahead and shared my contact information. We're going to take a moment here and have Q&A. So if you have any questions, Stephanie here is going to be keep an eye on our Q&A box. So if you look at the top of your screen, you've got a Q&A button. You can type in a question, and we'd be happy to cover that right now. But you also have on the screen my information and our URL here at Burk. So we're happy to share with you anything you'd like to know after this call as well. But we have time set aside to answer questions or to get into any issues you may have or any thoughts you may have about the product. So I can pause and stop talking and give you time to type, but we'd love to answer any questions that came up as you watch this presentation. And Stephanie, I'll let you interrupt me if something fun pops up in the Q&A. So.
I will do it. I love interrupting you.
That is a very true statement. So. And like I said, there's no immediate pressure. If you don't have a question for Jamie or a question for me right now, that's perfectly fine. You can always reach out after the fact, and we'd be happy to discuss this product or any questions you may have. We can get into the nuts and bolts of how we would implement and how quickly that goes. It's a very simple process. We can turn this around same day in most situations and protect your email environments.
Yeah, just to jump in there, Ben, a common question that does come up is, or more of an observation, I suppose, is Microsoft is starting to implement some of these AI components into their solutions as well. Mm-hmm. So it is possible customers can enable AI to determine user email patterns with their frequent contacts. But one of the challenges with that is that Microsoft AI does over-rely on contact information and the regular email addresses used. So that will generally, the natural state of that will limit the number of attacks detected and their accuracy. In comparison to the Barracuda AI, we're using historical data to create a social graph for each of the individuals within an organization. So the contact information and email address is only one of many data points that we're taking into account. So, for example, natural language processing is able to recognize an abnormal tone of the email and flag it as an attack. So that allows us to build very complex models, allowing us to, in our mind, provide superior protection. I might be a little biased, but we do have the stats that will shake that out and show that that is actually true.
No, I love that input. Yeah, that is critically important that you have. To your point, Jamie, that Barracuda can bring to bear that level of learning and evaluation of, to your point, natural language processing and all of the other points to actually dig into and understand what's going on in the environment. The tool is truly learning our clients' email environments and understanding how they typically act and then therefore what's abnormal. And that's a very key component. Well, I don't want to keep everyone. I know everybody has plenty to do. It's a busy Wednesday afternoon. So we'll give everybody some time back if no one has any questions. But thank everybody for participating. Jamie, thank you very much for your presentation and sharing all of your wisdom. It's been very beneficial.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ben. A pleasure to be here.
And then, like I said, if anybody has any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to email me or reach out via our webpage or be your account manager, and we'll do everything we can to help. But thank you all very, very much.